And this apparently now is going to record my lectures and what I do. Bob's your uncle, and I'll have a save changes. No, cancel. So everything I do on a screen, I probably, and my voice, but the voice is being recorded on the laptop. And as you can see, I walk around a fair bit. Yeah, so I'm not always on my laptop, so maybe the audio may not be the best. But, you know, you'll certainly see everything that I go through in on screen. Maybe, if nothing else, a memory jogger. How did you go with your tutorial? I'm sure. Success or failure? Success. Now, in my tutorial group, there was quite a few people when I set up who had a go. Yeah? Point, didn't have a go. Have a go. If you didn't bother and you're waiting for the answers, you're not going to learn anything, trust me. You'll just confuse yourself. You have to have a go. If you don't have a go, you'll never learn. Okay, let's go. Week 2. I want to show you a bit of code. Oops. I want to show you. Damn. Not that. TXT. Yes. As just samples again in a spirit of talking to you as developers. Can anybody tell me what this code does? Confuses the hell out of a reader. What does this code do? Yes.
Something to do with positioning.
Perfect. It's something to do with positioning. This is your latitude and longitude to the degree coordinates A and G, integrated survey grid. 6 different conversions that surveyors use. Yeah? Now, why am I showing you this piece of nonsense? There was a time, not all that long ago, when computers, and particularly portable computers, laptops didn't exist, were very tight on memory. Every time I put a line number down, there was 2 bytes. This machine had 2 Ks of memory, 2,000 bytes of memory. So you try to squeeze as much as you can into your computer. Yeah? This line number takes up 2 bytes. So you see how I put a colon, multiple instructions along a particular line? That was because a colon takes 1 byte. And I'm saving 1 byte every time I don't use a line number. And I'm going to do all that. Note, this is now, pay very close attention. Note, single letter variables. Yeah? Note that. There was a time, not all that long ago, when this is how we had to program, because depending on our machine, we didn't have room, we didn't have space. Today, we are talking about multi-gig disks and computers and so on. Tonight, we are going to start talking about programming. The first thing that I want to let you know, this sort of code, single letter variables, etc., is completely unacceptable. There was a time when we had to do it. And there was a reason why we had to do it. Today, if I say n is equal to something and that stands for north, I will say north. If I want a word, I will put a word down. The code has to be self-explanatory. So when you read it, you have some feeling of what it does. Okay.
Do modern compilers just compile your variables that one there anyway?
Yeah, the compilers. What the compilers do, we don't care. Yeah. We're talking about what people, when people read the code, when we have to support the code. That's what I'm coming from. I don't care what the compiler is quite happy with, just putting everything in line. It doesn't care. Okay. tonight I'm going to talk about introducing you to the language of PLSQL. So, ready to program? Take notes. Don't get nervous. Let's go. We're going to talk about tonight. I'll introduce you to the language fundamentals. I'll introduce you to the block structure, declaring variables, the scope of the variables in a very basic sense. We will get more in depth as we go. Comments and effective coding style. Unfortunately, I have to set some rules. So I'm quite honest, because if I don't, people sort of write a whole lot of nonsense, particularly where comments come in. So over the semester, I will be talking quite about effective coding style, commenting your code and so on. So I'll intertwine it into my lectures as we go. And then I'll show you, hopefully, I hope I have enough time of compiling and debugging your code and how to run your PLSQL code. Now, before I start, I have to say to you that ultimately we are going into packages. Yeah? And to go into packages, that is our ultimate aim. We always program in packages. But before we go to packages, we're going to go into something called anonymous blocks. That's where you just write a little bit of code into your SQL editor without saving it into the database. Then I'll take you through procedures and functions, and then I'll take you into packages. It's like a step that we go along. So don't worry too much about it tonight. What's an anonymous block? What's a name block? I'll explain all that. But ultimately, we are going into packages, but through the steps. Yeah? So your tutorials will be anonymous blocks, then we'll do main blocks and so on. Last week I asked you when I talk about main blocks, I'm talking about procedures and functions. I asked you a question last week, and I thought about it during the week, and I thought the answer they gave me was not good, and I didn't pick it up. I asked you a question. What is the difference between a procedure and a function? Anybody? Okay. Go. 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 Not one. A procedure? No. Difference between a procedure and a function.
An input.
Procedure doesn't return anything a function does. So when we write a function returns a value. So when I say toChar, toDate, and I give it some values, the system will return something. A procedure executes some code and does something and doesn't return a value. You call it procedure. Update log code. Back. The thing goes away and does something. That's what the answer we got last week. That is a quarter right. Something much, much, much more important is a function returns a value but does not change the state of the machine. So we don't call a toChar, and when we call a function, it does something, it writes to a table, reads something from something, it might read something, and changes something, changes the state of the machine. Even to print on a screen, a function does not change the state of the machine. It calculates something and returns a value. Full stop. Then the procedures take over and say, okay, depending on this, print something to the user and so on. So ideally, in a perfect world, we want to keep those things separate. I only mention it because we are talking about programming. We're going to get your procedures and functions, and I'm going to ask this question again. Now, what's PLSQL? PLSQL is procedural language, procedural step, not object-oriented. Procedural language extension to the structured query language, PLSQL. The language is highly structured. It is tightly integrated with SQL, highly structured. Declare variables before you use them. You can only use variables that are declared. If you're a database visual basic programmer, you know you can declare a variable or use a variable anywhere, the system automatically declares it for you. Yeah, so good help here. Just googly-gosh, wherever you go. PLSQL tightly structured,
tightly integrated with SQL. So basically we extract data and return data to the database, to the tables, and we control our SQL and whatnot with the programming languages. It's modeled after the Ada language.
I love telling this story. Ada is the language was it's an American Defense Department language, apparently, and it's named after Ada Lovelace. Who's Ada Lovelace? Ladies? No idea? Ada Lovelace was a daughter of Lord Byron. He was a famous English poet. Lord Byron was a Fruit Loop. Yeah? It was Melodiamatic, yes, of course. He'd be one of these guys that was singing, hey man, yeah, but he was a brilliant poet. Yeah? The mother and the daughter split. He's had other children and so on. And mother was so concerned about her daughter not inheriting her father's traits that she steered her very much into mathematics. And she had a talent for mathematics. She came across a person named Charles Babbage. Who's Charles Babbage? Anybody know who Charles Babbage is? IT people, I'm ashamed of you. He is a person who invented the first computer, the big steam-driven thing. Yeah, shake the hand that had a steam engine that used to drive things and work things out. In the old days, 1800s, ships used to go out to sea. And all the navigation charts, where's the sun, where's the stars, and all these things were manually computed. There were lots of mistakes. Ships got lost. They got wrecked, etc., etc. So Mr. Babbage says, oh, I wish I could create a steam engine to do all the calculations. And he did. Now, Ada met Mr. Babbage. And Ada realised, whoa, this is a fantastic machine. And she conceived this concept of we could give numbers to sounds and letters, and we can represent it by numbers and so on and so. Today we have MP4s, we have, everything's working on numbers, but she conceived this idea. Ladies, the world's first programmer was Ada Lovelace. Lord Byron married Mary Shelley. Who is Mary Shelley? Frankenstein. And after dealing with Lord Byron, she probably got inspired from it. Who knows? So, fantastic story. Please look it up. Babbage and Ada Lovelace. Now I thought, Ada, what the hell is that? American Defense Department, they're words to me. I was playing golf about 12 months ago. Out at Fox Hills, and they're playing with a young guy. Oh, what do you do? I'm a developer. Oh, yeah, what do you do? Oh, I work for the Defense Department. Oh, yeah, we go to a submarine. And, what language do you use? Ada. Well, I'm really down, I see. You're kidding. I thought Ada was just a made-up language or name. So it does exist. And all those, the sonars and all the missiles, guidance systems and whatever from the American Defense Department are written in Ada from, nowadays they're probably different languages, but certainly a lot of it would be Ada. Has nothing to do with programming, has nothing to do with the class, but I love the story of Ada Lovelace. And the reason I love it is because during the semester, the ladies will come up to me and they'll use that feminine go, oh, Laurie, this is so hard, I'm not sure how I can do it. And I'll say to you, ladies, the world's first programmer was a lady. Yeah? And this is particularly for any people that come from a school of business and so on. Now, so back to PLSQL. PLSQL is a standalone language. There is no executable. We don't compile it, put it into a computer. It sits in a database. We will be working in a database. It is run in a host database environment and invoked through interfaces like SQL+, which is our the SQL developer front end. We don't have an interface with the user. Often it's kicked off by a scheduler or maybe something that triggers it off. what's that big scheduling system that they use on the mainframes? Anybody know? The name just escaped me. AutoSys? Big, complex scheduling system. We basically have a scheduling system, and you say, okay, I want you to run this program, I want you to run this program. On success or failure, I want you to run another program. And this big scheduling system runs different code in the databases and in the whole environment. Yeah, so you don't have to sort of worry too much about it. The scheduling system worries about it for you. So the code is executed, depend on the success or failure. Do I run this or do I run that? What happens if I fail? Call for help, etc. And maybe run other programs. And there's potentially, through the night, in a commercial database environment, there's potentially thousands of programs running continually. Anybody that works? You're at work, I guess. Can you verify that? Sure. Yeah. And you sound surprised that I even asked the question. Not one program running at one time, or two programs. There are virtually thousands of programs working simultaneously doing who knows what. And what we have to be careful is that they don't bump each other. Something more that you should concern yourself is that your program that you write may spawn multiple sessions of itself. Your program might be running over and over and over again, and one session may not finish. What happens if that's the sort of situation, and so on. And in our tutorial, we have this little requirement that you check to see whether your program is running or not. So there's with a run table and so on. Now, PLs can be used in databases as well as in Oracle client-server environments. You may work in an organisation, Office of the State Revenue's one of the State Tax Department, they use this thing called Oracle Forms, which they do in front end. Report writers. Yeah, if it's an Oracle product, you may very well be using PLSQL, where you're writing code to present data in a GUI environment. But it's a GUI environment and your interaction with the database is seamless. We are only working in a database. We will be writing code in a database, it will be running in a database, and it will not, think of it, that you will not be interacting with it. It will be standalone. Each version of Oracle database contains an enhancements to the PLSQL language. Enhancement, they change something, they put, instead of decode, they might bring out a case statement, but not a lot changes. At UTS, we're running on Oracle version 11G. I think now we're up to 18C. That doesn't mean we're missing out on 17, 16, 15, and 14. I think they went from 11, 12, straight to 18. What the hell C means, I don't know. That's all marketing claptrap. Yeah, they make up all these wonderful things. At UTS for Oracle 11G, to compile the PLSQL code against, our front end will be SQL Developer, although be aware that there are other tools. Code is about $3,000 to $4,000 a copy, very similar to SQL Developer, which is free, but fabulous tool. We will be using a standard environment provided by Oracle, which is our interface through SQL Developer. And I said, get a good text editor, because I'll talk about backups and so on, maybe at a later time. You are free to use whatever tools are available to you to create PLSQL programs. I don't care where you develop it. SQL Developer is the place, but as we develop our code, basically it will be stored in the database. I will mention this, I wasn't going to. What happens if our database crashes and our code is sitting in the database? What happens? Murphy's Law says, what does Murphy's Law say? Murphy's Law says, if something that can go wrong will go wrong at the most inappropriate time, chances are when your assignment is due, that server will crash. Because reruns going to crash or something. Something's going to happen. And of course, I'll get phone calls, it'll be panic, oh, I can't handle my assignment because it's in the database. Is that right? Where's your backup? No excuse. Capish? That's Italian for you understand. Do your own backup. Don't rely on people. Now,
we're going to talk about administration in quite a few weeks' time. But if you lose your code and you go to the people say, "How can I get my code out of the database?" They have to restore the whole database to get your file. What are your chances? Zero. Do your own backup. Write things into a text file. I'll show you. Copy and paste, load, whatever you do. Be responsible for your own code. Now, the fundamentals of PLSQL. PLSQL basically works on blocks. I think you guys, to relate you to Java, because you all love Java, you have a class, which is a package, and you have methods inside your class, which is your procedures and functions. You have a method, you don't differentiate between procedures and functions. And inside your methods, you have these little curly braces that says start and curly braces that says end. And then you might have those in a number of different places in your method. That's your block. This is the start, this is the end. Generally for exception handlers. In your Java, you might put a block and you might put an exception handler. I'm not sure what you say in Java, but on Eros, I forget, sorry, I shouldn't embarrass myself. So, PLSQL, the fundamental unit is a block, which is the core of two language concepts in most languages. That is modularization, splitting things up into manageable code, and the other thing is scope. Now, scope to me is a bit of an academic argument, because when they talk about scope, is that your variable is defined, wherever you define your variable, you use it in that scope. Like a variable a scope is in a method. Whereas if you define a variable at the class level, its scope is all the methods. Now the academics use that. The gung-ho programmers, developers, will basically put everything at the global level and use it. Because it's easy. You don't have to think about it. But as you develop your skills and you develop your techniques, you will soon see that, we're modularizing things, we're making some things public, we're making some things private. Do we really want to, sometimes we need the scope of the variable to be wide. Sometimes we just want to restrict it. Because there's this concept of we're using all this memory. Java has this thing called garbage collection, yeah? Is that still the case? Well, these languages don't. You start using variables all over the place, you're storing it, the computer's messy and so on. So a good developer, even though the system does it by itself, will basically look at the scope of their code. But I'll be honest with you, I've never gave it two thoughts. Just whatever works, works. Because there's never enough time to do the job properly. Well, guess what? There's always enough time to do it again. Isn't that right? But isn't that the case with everything? Blocks can be anonymous and named blocks. Now we'll talk about anonymous code and named blocks, which is your procedures and functions. Blocks of code that do not have a name, we will start programming with these anonymous blocks in our SQL developer, stored as a text file and loaded by the user at runtime. We will not be storing our code in a database. The code is stored in a database when we say create or replace a function, create or replace a procedure. For this week, we will be running anonymous blocks, which means that you'll save it onto your disk or whatever in a text file, and you'll load it in as I do my SQL when I run it for you. Yeah? Now, name blocks, these are procedures and functions generally stored in the database in a compiled format. In this subject, we will be dealing with packages. Your assignment will be written in a package, not anonymous blocks, and certainly not procedures and functions, packages. And ultimately, in 3 weeks' time, we are heading to packages. And along the way, I'll explain different concepts to you. Scope in particular, how to pass variables from one module to another module, or procedure and function, and so on. Okay, here's a little bit analogy, that word, analogy of a block. Declare, variable. We use variables before we use them. We must declare them. Begin, end. An exception handling, believe me. Exception handling is a topic for another lecture, very, very important. Yeah? But for today, basically your exception sits inside a block. We have our variables, yeah, and we have some operations, and we have some outputs and whatnot. So this is what a block looks like. This will work. It will print to the screen. I'll introduce you to the DBMS output line. Print a string, but I'll talk about that in a little while. But this is what a block looks like. No name. You would have a text file, and then, you know, here, as we'll talk about, you might write a bit of SQL query, a cursor, loop around and print something or whatever. But basically, this is a piece of code that will run, and the declare begin and end is your block. Yeah? Simple. No big deal. And every piece of code that you write, procedures and functions, even a package will have a begin and end. Your procedures will have a begin and end. And then, of course, we can have a begin and end inside the begin and end, which is in Java, is your little braces inside, little braces and so on. What do you call that in Java? Nested what? We call it nested blocks. But so, something to note and some rules that I will establish. Semicolon for line terminator. Every line, except the key, declare, begin, exception, end, and so on, semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. Exception if some condition, then this is a continuation, you say something, semicolon, semicolon. The biggest mistake and the biggest hassle you'll have when you're learning this stuff is you'll forget your semicolon. And the system will throw up some error. You'll go, no, what does that mean? It takes a while to get a little bit used to it. Assignment operator. Note, a v count, a variable is equal to colon equals. That's your assignment operator. I think C is the same, from the best of my recollection. So this is your assignment operator. Note the comparison operator. I should, because I'm recording, I should. Note the comparison operator. Note the assignment operator. We are checking the comparison if we're comparing this to this. What's the truth of this? That's the comparison operator. And they go greater than, less than, not equal to, and so on. Assignment operator, semicolon. Comparison operator, line comments. Note, periodically, I will put down 2 dashes. They're the line comments. So you can comment a line at a time. Same with C, yes, and Java. No, Java's different. Slash. Yeah. So this is your equivalent to // which is dash. And of course, you got your block comments. So as you're developing and as you're working with code, you want to go through, let's say you have a block of code, you don't want to go through that because then you have to delete. So block comments is / start, and the start / which is your C syntax. And I think Java's the same, yes? So that's that, and self-documenting names. This is something that I'm going to harp at you till the day that you leave this subject in whatever month. Self-documenting names. You saw the code that I gave you with all that garbage in there. You didn't have a clue what it's all about. I will, under no circumstance, accept code that has single letter variables and where the variables are not self-documenting. This is Laurie's rule. Very, very important. I want self-documenting code. Discuss formats, set out, variable naming, comments, and white space. Again, note the white space. I have this dash here because it puts something there. I can put a space in there, but then a compiler might go through, or different tools like SQL Developer may reformat your code. So I put a space there only to give it white space. Why do I want white space? Because it's easier for people to read. The computer doesn't give a damn if this whole thing's in one line. Actually, the compiler will put it all in one line. But remember, you may be supporting somebody's code at 2 o'clock in the morning when AutoAssist and the scheduling system fail, and then you get a phone call or your telephone rings or whatever, and the computer says, and then you might have to log in and then you have to read some code. One line of code is very, very hard to read. White space, easy set out, indents, so it's easy to read. Self-documenting names is that when you're sitting around a table with the developers and whatnot, you get the feel for what the code is doing. Very important for the humans. Computer doesn't care. Yeah? For the humans, very important. Okay, what else do I need to talk about? The other thing, and I'm not sure if the slide is coming up or not, one of the things that I'm going to get you to do, I'm going to ask you to do, is note how I have V underscore counter. Note that I have the letter V underscore. Now, I do that because if it's a variable, I will name it as a V underscore. If it's a constant, I will call it a C underscore. If it's a parameter that I'm passing into a procedure or function, that I'm accepting, a parameter I will introduce with a P underscore. Why do I do it? Because when I'm debugging my code and I'm reading back, I can distinguish, oh, this is a variable, this is a constant, this is a parameter, and it makes it easier for me to read. Now, rule number 2. I don't give a damn what you call it and how you differentiate. Because as you move from job to job and you go to different organisations, they all have a slightly different thing. And I'm not saying this is the best way or whatever. You must, should, you will, I want you to develop some sort of a style to differentiate your variables. You please yourself. Use mine, you decide on yours or whatever. But what I will be looking for is that you're consistent throughout your code. Make sense? You now understand what I mean consistent. Yeah? If you call something B here, then you call it a parameter, a P underscore, then all of a sudden you decide you're going to call it a P underscore for a variable. Well, again, the computer doesn't care. It's all for the human stuff. So, you can, by all means, use my style if that suits you, but by all means, develop your own style and be consistent. You'll leave me too. That's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I think I'll get over it. I'll be heartbroken, but I'll get over it. What else? See, she made me lose my train of thought. Yes, now, the other thing is the DBMS output line. I have a little bit, I'm just sort of rushing a little bit because I'll show you in the database how we run these things. DBMS underscore output line, what that does is that's print to the screen. And while you're developing, this is how you will be printing, you'll be logging your messages and everything onto the screen. But remember, and I'll harp at this very often, is that what's the point of printing to the screen when the machine's in production? Who's going to watch it? But nobody's going to be sitting on a computer and starting, the thing will start by itself, it'll run in the middle of the night, and if a message prints to the screen, the program failed because of that. What's the point? While you're developing, print to the screen to see what variables there are, fine. But in production, we never want to see DBMS output.putline because nobody is watching your code. Your code, PLSQL, runs in a database, it has no user interface. Your assignment, towards the end, I will basically, when you're close to finishing it and you're polishing it all up, I will show you how to set up a scheduler. And I will suggest to you that you run your program at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then when you wake up in the morning, what did it do? Did it work? Did it fail? Where did it fail? What did it do? And if you go to the problem, it must work because I wrote it. You need to log things. You need to understand because that person that's going to get called at 2 o'clock in the morning, what are they going to do? I'll show you how to log to a table and so on. So, this command will print to the screen, and I'll show you much more about this. It will print to the screen. That's great when you're developing and you're writing and in our university, but don't get too used to it. In a database environment like this, we don't really print to the screen in production. Yeah? So, happy with what a block is and what a piece of code looks like? Okay, now we have blocks. There's a block, declare, or actually begin and end is your block. Declare is something that we put at the start because this is all our variables. And the other thing I should say is that a variable must be declared before it's used. Yeah, your tutorial I think is pick so many different variable types and then work out what if I say v counter and it's a number, no, it's exactly the same as a sequel, but what does it default to? Is it 0? Is it 9? Is it 10? Is it 100? Yeah, so you need to know what the computer defaults variables to because, you know, if you sort of do an incremental counter and if it's null or if it's 0 or something else, that could sort of throw you out a little bit, particularly with null. Nulls are bad. Nested blocks. So we spoke about in Java where you have the little curly braces and closed curly braces, then you have other curly braces and closed curly braces. They're your nested blocks inside a method. Yeah? So if a block enables a programmer to break the code into manageable section, then blocks must be able to be nested. So a block and methods will break out code into manageable sections, something that does something, but inside that block we need to be able to do something or break the code up. Why do we do that? The academics will tell you that to control the scope of the variables. I say, great, if you're an academic, that's terrific. Practically not much. But the reason that we break our blocks into subblocks is because it's a way to handle exceptions. If we have a procedure that has a number of lines and we just have a block with an exception at the end, then there could be a lot of code being executed, which exception, not through the exception. If we break the blocks up into sub-blocks, then each sub-block or each block can have an exception handler. So you could basically write a piece of code, put a block in there, and then try something and have an exception handler. Succeed or fail. Because when the code transfers control to the exception handler, you can't go back again. Yeah? We'll talk about that in exception handling. But basically this is why we have blocks. One is the scope of the variables and two is the exception handling. Nested blocks live inside other blocks. We don't have begin, end, and then between the begin and end we have another begin and an end. Yeah? We have begin, end. Same as Java. You don't have curly braces, you have open curly brace, then open curly brace, then close curly brace, close. I don't think you do it, we shouldn't, because it's too confusing. So blocks are blocks of code that basically run one after another. Other terms you may hear is nested blocks are enclosing block, child block, sub-block, parent block, yeah. There's all different names when you read in Google and so on. But everything revolves around blocks. And in this example here, we have the declare section once. We declare our variables, and then we have the begin section, and there's the end section. There's a block. Within a block, we have a sub-block. Note, we have another declare section. That's optional. But if we have a declare section and we declare a variable in there, the scope of this variable is only this block. That's what I talk about scope. Yeah? So the scope of this variable, just so the recorder can pick it up, Fahimo, the scope of this variable is this block. The scope of this variable is everything. Yeah? This is what we mean by scope, the scope of the variables. So what the academics and the tight programmers will do is, what the loose programmers will do, we'll just declare variables up the top and just use them. Who cares? Tight programmers and people who are thinking about what they're doing, they'll say, okay, I'll declare variables that I need, but I need a variable here because I'm doing something. Once it's finished, it's finished. Yeah? Java, of course, will then go through and do garbage collection and so on. Now, this block, we can have another block, we can have another block, and we can have a block inside this block. I don't know to what depth, but it would be considerable and far more than your imagination would be able to work out. But this is what we're talking about, nested blocks or blocks. And when we're talking about variables, the scope of the variables are within the block, depending on how you define your blocks. And the other thing that I can't talk too much about, because we have to wait for the lecture, is that these blocks enable me to handle exceptions. when a system throws an exception, an error has occurred, then basically, let's say if we go through and there's an exception that gets thrown over here inside this block, what will happen is the system will throw the exception handler to this exception handler. There isn't one. Yeah? So we go to end, come back, unhandled exception occurred. Call production support. Yeah? Whereas here, if we catch exceptions, and I'm sorry to do talking about exceptions, but if we catch an exception and we have an exception handler, we print or we write to a table, an exception has occurred at this location because of this. Please check this, gracefully end, and maybe continue executing rather than just fail. Benefits of nested blocks. I already spoke about that. I won't speak about that again. I'll talk about here SQL data types. There are hundreds. Timestamps, there's hundreds of different data types and you can have a look at it. We will probably only deal with these types, which is your char, your varchar. Please stop for me to use char. Date. Hello, date. We love dates, don't we? After today's tutorial, I bet you do. Number, and varchar2 again, and boolean. Yeah? Booleans are flagged true or false. Now, varchar2, why they call it varchar2, only heavens knows. I think MicroSQL Server's varchar, isn't it? But in Oracle it's varchar2, char. What do you think is the difference between char, what do you think is meant by char 10? 10, allocate 10 bytes for you, yeah? So you can store a character in there, 10 bytes. Varchar 215, what do you think that means? What do you think that means? That's what do you think that means? Somebody else? Not you. Here's the one behind you. Yeah, you know the answer. Yeah, him. Go.
So you've got 15 bytes allocated?
Correct. We have a varchar 15 and we allocated 15 bytes. Now, when this compiler runs and the compiler sees that, it will allocate 10 characters. Yeah? Or room for 10 characters. Let's say we put in CBA. Commercial Bank of Australia, Commonwealth Bank of Australia. We put in CBA. Yeah? What happens to the other 7? 9. Gone. Well, they're empty. Because we could store up to 10 because we could store national. So we store all the banks or whatever. Now, varchar 215, if I store CBA in there, the system will store 3 characters and then basically that's what it means. Variable character. Which is better? Which is better? Varchar. What do you think is better? Varchar, of course, because we're not wasting space, are we? Correct? All agree? Yeah, look at the head shape. You suckers. Yeah. Well, varchar is dynamic because it can store whatever it needs. We might allocate 255 bytes to it, but we only use 3. It'll only use 3. Now, let me ask you a question. All the ones that know their heads. Yeah? You've heard of the SQL statement updates, haven't you? Yeah? Where we can change values. All of a sudden the business unit says, oh, we don't really want to store CBA, we want to store Commonwealth Bank of Australia. And assuming that we have enough room to store that. What happens? What does our computer have to do? You can't store it here because can't store it here because it's gone. The next piece of memory is over here. If we left enough room in the chart, this memory being taken, when we store CBA, it's only using 3, but there's all that wasted space. But now we're updating something, so now we've got room. Fantastic. Here, CBA is gone because the next memory location is being filled up. So now it has to go through to find a bit of memory, put Commonwealth Bank of Australia, put a pointer to it, and say, oh, that's where you find this value. Which is better?
Depends.
It depends. If you're using data that you know is going to be modified all the time, And, you know, like if your system is running and you're changing data all the time, then you make a little analysis and you say, oh, we're going to use a chart, we're going to use a bar chart. You'll always see bar chart because some people don't even understand. But you understand? If you're changing data constantly, then obviously you don't want the system to be looking for memory all the time because that's clock cycles. That's you're wasting performance for nothing. And if, so that, but if the table is very stable and the data is very stable, bar chart, do the whole test. Let the system use whatever it needs, particularly in your programming area. There's your date. We've had an exercise in dates. You know how to work now. You should know the two charts, two dates, etc., etc. And a date, if you were just look inside that variable, it's not the 18th of March 2019. That's not what's written there. It's a hexadecimal number, which is a number of seconds from some point in time. In Oracle, it's 4000 BC. And then the system converts all that stuff. SQL, PLSQL, exactly the same stuff. Number, you would generally say just number. That's enough. 23.2 number would be a real number. You know what I mean by real number? As opposed to an integer. Yes? You understand the difference between a real number and an integer. And double precision and single precision and so on, so on, so on, so on. This is a real number and it can store, it has the capability of storing 2 decimal places. So if I was to put a number in there with 3 decimal places, it would not allow, or it would it'll round. Yes, it'll probably round. Different systems do different things. Some might just truncate it, which you've got to be careful of. And again, note the naming convention. What does this mean to you? SHA-1 and SHA-2. What does that mean to you? It means nothing to me. But if I said V first name, V last name, self-explanatory variables. Self-document your code. Yeah? These things mean nothing. I don't know, am I teaching you things that you already know? Yeah? Did I teach you this stuff? Very important. Very important. Self-documenting. This is what I'll be looking for in your assignment. Data types. We have a variable, we declare it as a number, we can allocate this value, we can initialize a value as we do there, or we leave it as big gravity number, and then we will set up a value later on. If, from a point of view of the variable named big gravity, what am I trying to store in there? What am I trying to store in there? The constant form of gravity is, yeah? Gravity is 9.8 meters per second, correct? Now, is that going to change? So that I might even argue that could be a constant. Yeah? So, but I've declared it as a variable. And we constant gravity, so see how I'm using the term constant, we use the term constant and type with a value. What's the difference between a variable and a constant? In your experience with your programming languages?
Constant doesn't change.
Constant doesn't change through the run of the code. We can't go through it somewhere through our code, say con_gravity and change this value, because then it's not a constant, is it? That's why they call it constants. Yeah? So there's a difference between variable and constant. Something that stays constant for the duration of your program run is a constant, and we define a constant by this keyword constant. Because we are working in a database environment, we need to easily and seamlessly relate our codes to the data in the database. So, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of data types. Customer is a table name, dot, column name, percentage type. So if you are looking for data to store something from the customer table and you want to be able to store the customer's first name, and you say, oh shit, what is it? Is it bar chart? How many characters is it? Well, but you want to keep it consistent. Otherwise the program will fail or we'll lose data. Now, you might say, oh, it's a bar chart 23, so you have to go to the table, you have to have a look, and then mistakes happen because, you know, you write a lot of things. We have this thing called percentage type. You don't have to know what it is. What the system will do is I'm declaring a variable, I'm making it of a type, table dot attribute percentage type.
Was it casting? Was it casting?
This casting is create automatically casting. So if this was a date, this will then be a date. If this was a number, then it will be a number. Yeah? Sometimes it's a little hard to read because maybe you want to know, but you're allowing the system to automatically create the customer file. This is very handy because over time tables change. All of a sudden we have very long surnames that we didn't have before, so we have to change the table. And we're going to alter the table by changing the column width from 25 to 35. Now every piece of code that we have to go through and change. Now from 25 to 35 is not such a bad thing, because it might truncate, but if we shorten it, then all of a sudden we have now built bugs into our system, into our commercial system. Because all of a sudden we're not representing the same values. So when we change things in the database, we have to then go through and identify every piece of code that uses the data and change it. That's why we never, ever make change in the database, in the code. For that very reason, because this is where your bugs come in. And then all of a sudden you make a change here, and then 3 months later, something goes, and then all of a sudden you spend a month or 2 months trying to work out what the hell's going on. And then it comes to something like this. Because it depends on how the developer's written the code and how they've handled it, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that's the type. There's another one which is row type, percentage row type. So the type, percentage row type. This is a little bit more of an advanced data type, and if you can visualize it, a customer has a row in a table, which is salutation, first name, last name, date of birth, this, that. And this variable type now has those multiple attributes, which we reference by R_customer, R for record, this now becomes a record, dot attribute name. And we can create now a record, is that what they call it in Java? Oh, no. I think Java's a bit different because you create a class and then from that you cast it to a variable attribute. Because you might have multiple attributes, but in here, what you're doing is you're now creating what's called a record. R_customer, and it's of a type customer percentage row type. This allocates one attribute, like name, or address, or date of birth, whatever. This basically creates a record with multiple elements that we refer to by the dot notation. Record name, dot, whatever the attribute is of the customer table. And of course, SQL Server guys, where are you? Put your hand up. They're not here? Good. We're going to talk about cursors. Yeah, and SQL Server people for some reason hate cursors. They have different ways. What we do is under our declare section, this is all under our declare section, we define our cursor. Call it cursor. Cursor, I think, stands for current set of records. And there we write our SQL statements that will be retrieving that data. And as I've shown you in multiple examples, large SQL statements, the less hits to the database you can do, the more efficient your code is going to do. What we don't want to do is we don't want to create a cursor, which is select this and this and this, and when you run it, the thing goes off and then loops around through the records and whatever. We want to be tight, concise, precise with our extraction of data. But that's a topic for another day. At the moment, I'm introducing you to a data type called a cursor, and a cursor is simply a SQL statement that you will run to extract data. Loop through it generally. Now, using the anchor data type, this is an example. So I'm sorry that it's a little bit dull, but you'll be able to read it at your leisure at home. But declare our customer, you see row type. So from the customer table, and now I go in and say begin, select star, which is every attribute, into our customer. Our customer, from customer, where row name is less than 2. I'll come back to this, but this is a third thing that I'm putting in. But note select star into my record from customer. where row number is less than 2. Now, we have a record type which is a percentage row type. That means we have one record, which is one row in a table, with number of attributes. We don't have to tell SQL where to put the variables. It knows automatically. So when I say select star, because we've defined a record, a variable of that type, row type, it will populate each one of those elements of the record. Why do you think I've got where row number is less than 2? Wanna go? Just guess.
Because you're only expecting one output.
Well, no, not that I'm expecting one output. I must have only one output. Because if I was to go through and select star from customer, how many records do I get? Well, a lot. But we want one, because a record is just one row in a table. Now, the dual cells that serve the same purpose, because it produces one record. But customer table, the system will try to loop through. I can't say where row number is equal to 1 because it's not a right syntax. So I say where row number is less than 1 for demonstration purposes only. This is to demonstrate how row types are being used. But you might go through and you might create a record and maybe write some SQL statement like I got you to do in the tutorial. And bang, all your variables are now populated. Yeah, from the dual table or whatever. So these are your type and row type records. And again, DBMS output put line, we're printing the information to the screen. And again, note how I should do it here because it's recorded. Note, I have a R customer, which is of a customer row type, the customer table row type. I'm selecting star, not different attributes, select star, into the keyword into R customer, which is my record from customer so-and-so. Now I want to print one element, which is the customer number. And note how I'm referring to it, R customer dot customer number. So you have to know what the attributes of that customer table are. Tick? Clear? Fairly straightforward. I mean, as long as you understand it, how to use it and where to use it, this is something we'll get into as you start looking at it. Now, the row type anchors the variables to a database table definition. The SQL statement must select each attribute of the table therefore the select star. If you do a select blah, 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 certain attributes, only certain attributes into the record that you define as row type, the system going, I don't know where you want me to put these, crash. Yeah? There's other ways to create row types and to create cursors. But that's, again, a topic for a lecture later on. At the moment, we are introducing row type, and basically when you populate the row type, the basic syntax is that you must select every attribute and you are populating that record type. The limit, so SQL statement must select, accessing each element of the record is achieved by using the dot notation, the our customer attribute, which I think is very similar in all your languages. Java has the same sort of thing, and .NET and C# and everything. They all use this dot notation, which is fine. And of course, later on, when we start getting into more complex data types, we'll have dot notation, which is rows, columns, depth. So you have three-dimensional arrays and all these sort of things. So you build some fantastic data types out of simple data types. But again, this is not for us. But it happens, like in your other programming language. Let's say you're writing in Java. And what you want to do is you want to write a SQL statement to extract data into memory and work through it. You'll be building complex data types and basically loading everything onto the screen so it's quick. And maybe manipulate, do some searching with complex data types. You, of course, will be interacting with SQL at the back end. And I suppose this is as good a time as any, is that if you are Java developers and you want to do all that processing at the front end, at the moment you might actually be starting to say to yourself, hang on, man, why the hell should I be doing all that processing on the client side
but I could have just called it a method of procedure at the back end, do some calculations for me, bring it out to me, and I'll just display that information to the user. That's when you walk away from the subject. I hope you get this appreciation, and you'll sort of appreciate the database is not just a dumb store of data. There's intelligence, or you can write intelligence in it. Not everything happens in the client side, and not everything happens in the back-end side. You're minimizing network traffic and so on. But again, I digress. I'm going off the topic. So, okay, row type, etc., etc. Using cursor variables. Aha, here we go. Now, remember that movie, Indiana Jones? Where that guy that played James Bond, what was his name? Sean Connery. Remember him? He was the father. And remember when he had to go into this temple where there's an old knight there, and he basically had to go across this invisible bridge? Remember? And remember, he's there going, what? And what did he take? He took a leap of faith. Remember? And then they put that sprinkle stuff and then you saw the bridge there. That leap of faith. I'm asking you to take a leap of faith. Don't worry about understanding what I'm showing you now, because I'll explain this in another lecture. But I'm going to show you how to use cursors without explanation. Okay? It's that leap of faith. Yeah? Cursor. Select. Give it a name. Cursor. Give it a name. Is. And a select statement as complex or as basic as you like. The cursor is declared. The compiler will go through and check the SQL syntax and basically forget about it. Begin. I now will be running a cursor for loop. Yeah? So this is called a cursor for loop. At this point, when the system hits 4 and it hits this area where it says record in cursor, at that point, you will see the system lag a little bit and your SQL query will be executed. So the system will throw the SQL query to the database, it will extract all the data and bring it all into your memory, into your program, and the cursor will be sitting there with a pointer pointing at the first record, going, "Ooh, what do you want?" Yeah? So at this point, the cursor executes, and then we loop. This is a cursor for loop. Yeah? Now note, I've declared a cursor here and I gave the cursor a name. For here, I'm using a record, but I haven't declared it. In a cursor for loop, I don't have to declare this record. You know your normal cursor loops? You know your normal for loops? You know, you say for I equals 1 to 10, you never have to declare I. You probably forgot. But that's self-declaring. Same thing here. The system is declaring, so I don't have to go up here and say, oh, I have to declare a record. What of? I say for record customer name in cursor. This cursor. And at this point here, the system will go away and execute this query. Now it'll then retrieve your customer number, customer first name, customer last name, and customer balance. So we're not retrieving all the values out of the database, we're just retrieving some of the values. And we are going through the cursor for loop. So from there, it starts looping, and what I'm doing is I'm printing each value. So you can copy this and paste it at home and have a go, and you'll see that printout will happen with, and it'll print the customer number. Go through. Now, the leap of faith I asked you to take is, don't worry about how the cursor is opened. Don't worry about how the cursor is closed. Don't worry about how the cursor how we travels through the cursors. The system does all this for us. Yeah.
Don't you use fetch with cursors or something?
That's when you use fetch with the cursors if you do it the manual way, the old way. This, the cursor for loop, the system does everything for you. So you might do some reading and you might see some Googling, and you'll declare a cursor, then you'll have to open up a cursor, then you'll have to fetch a cursor. They call it fetching a cursor. Then you have to check, and then you have to close the cursor. This is your leap of faith. Trust me.
simple cursor, for, loop, end loop, loop around. The system does everything for you. Oh, it's relatively new, but not that new. There is a lecture that I have on cursors that explains what's happening behind the scenes and how to do it manually, because you will encounter old code in your travels. Yeah, nowadays, even when you go to a bank or whatever, you'll probably be maintaining COBOL. Oh, we learn Java. Yeah? What? You think everybody's going to rewrite COBOL in Java? No, there's a lot of our code that will be around for many, many, many years to come, which you'll be supporting. Writing, developing, modifying, changing, who the hell knows? Anyway, I digress again. The cursor data defines a pointer to the output of the SQL statement. Using the cursor for loop, we can traverse through the records one at a time. Accessing each element of the record is achieved by using the dot notation. Again, example, customer number, and so on. Okay, so leap of faith, if I ask you to write a cursor name is SQL statement, do whatever you like. I don't even write some of the stuff that we did in your first tutorial. And basically get some data. Now that you have this data, like SQL just presented, now we're controlling it to the program. Because as you go through the cursor, if the record number is there, if the balance is there, then do this call proceeding, call function, and that's what we'll be doing in weeks to come. Because at the moment, all we're doing is processing through. But in here goes all your instructions and all your intelligence of what to do with this data that you just extracted. Yeah? Which is what your assignment is going to be all about. Some intelligence which maybe write your other tables, do this, call procedures to do something, etc., etc., etc. Okay, now, code readability and maintenance. Well, this code works, but you might say, what the hell is what's different with the other stuff? This is all captures, no white space, no indenting. Sorry, go.
And there's no self-documenting names either.
Well, there's definitely no self-documenting. This is a fail. It might work. I don't care. But it's a fail. Because that reminds me of the code I showed you at the start. Are we really in the days when we have to save memory at the expense of self-documenting code? Really? Really? This is those guys who are going to be downloading their software from websites that have my assignments on it. This is what I'm going to get. I'm going to get you. Yeah? This is one place. Okay? So even if you download it and you start changing, as soon as you start changing it because you're not doing the work, you have to get a mistake and the compile, then you're up the proverbial creek. Yeah? But I warn you, this is where I'll get you. One of the places where I'll get you. So, self-documenting names and self-explanatory names. I'm sorry, I'm boring you. I tend to go on a little bit, I'm sorry. How would you like to read page and page and page of code like this? Yeah? So, indent, white space, easy to read. Comments, variables, naming convention. I've explained, I've went through all this sort of stuff. I'm not going to waste too much time on this anymore because I am running out of time. Variable naming. Again, I think I've explained myself with the variable names, but you can read it by yourself. And now, what I want to show you is this. We are now going to run the database. You've seen me use DBMS output, put line, a number of times. Yeah? Now, in order for you to print onto the screen, you need to do something. Yeah? The system doesn't just print to the screen. And what happens is that DBMS output is a name of a package, and .put line is a name of a procedure. And we pass to a string, and basically it's that package that will do the printing for us. So it's a piece of code written by Oracle. Yeah? Now, in order for this to work, what we need to do is we need to issue this statement. Set server output on. Once in a session. Oops. And of course, my session is not logged in. Yeah, beautiful. So once in a session, set server output on. Bang. If you don't do this, then you won't see the printout. Okay? Now, ladies, because the world's first programmer was a lady, I'm going to ask you this question. Here's a piece of code. Begin, null, semicolon, end. Let me clear this out, clean it. Let me run it again. Ladies?
What does this do? No, ladies. What does this do? You got a clue? Nothing. It does nothing. You knew that. Or are you shy? See, I'm intimidated all the ladies. I should have asked the ladies. What does this do? Nothing. It does nothing. It does something very, very, very important. What's that? It does something very important.
Does it clean the slate? Like just.
It compiles. And it runs. Under no circumstance will I accept code that doesn't run. Under no circumstance. Even if it does nothing, it must run. So, you guys, when you started to practice programming and so on, and you're going through and then, you know, like my mate Mark, when I did a course, you know, we were doing COBOL or something, and we're all struggling, and what's going on? Martin says, oh yeah, man, this is easy. You know, Martin was an idiot. Yeah, this is easy. He brings out the computer, you know, the old computer, you know, he wrote it all out, and he handwritten code. No, there it is, I finished. Yeah, it runs. It'll run. And of course, we're in there writing lines of code, error, compile. You fix one problem, you get 10 more. You know, really? You don't write the whole thing in one go. You start with something that works, and you build, and you build, and you build, and you build, and you build. And as you're building, when you start getting the error, you can then isolate. And as you write your code, if you want to comment something out, the comments, comment lines out or sections out or whatever, and you build, and you build, and you build, and you build. And if you're a good designer, what you might do is you will design and sketch your solution out with all the modules and all the classes, and even if each module says, I am doing this, my name is this, my name is that. And you see how it all goes through. The code is compiling and it's running. What does it do? SFA. Okay? But it compiles. So, under no circumstance will I accept code that doesn't run. I'll throw it back at you. Because it's not acceptable for you to put code into production that doesn't work. Now, whether it produces the right results or not, that is a completely different discussion. Right? That's what testers are for, etc., when you do your testing. Okay, so you're happy with that. Set server output on is the once in a session. So if the session times out and you log back in again, you have to issue the self-server output on. Somewhere in here, and I'm under pressure now, but one of these things here, I think it says it does it for you. Run script now, somewhere in here. I can't find it. Anyway, so let's go through. Now begin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this query and I'm going to show you how DBMS output works. Bang, right? Anonymous blocks completed. Now DBMS output, this is me at tochar sysdate, blah, blah, blah. So you're comfortable with that, yes? And you see your code. So this is an anonymous block. It's running in the window. We're not storing it in a database. But this is our first, no, actually, this is our first run of code. Yeah, note the semicolon, yeah, it doesn't do anything. This one does a little bit more. Note, I printed, this is me at a date. So I'm logging my output. It's printing to the screen. So as my program is running, it will be printed to the screen. Also note that I have another line in there which says common.log.
Now, common is a package that I wrote. This is not Oracle. I wrote. Yes? And if I go into my packages, which you're well free to do under the user DBP admin, you'll see there's a package called common. And inside that common, there's a body and there's a procedure called log. Common.log. And I pass it a parameter, which we will discuss about in weeks to come. Yeah. And what I do is I insert into DBP message log, message ID, values, p message ID, commit, out, finish. Yeah? So what I'm doing is I'm using my code to log to a table as well as printing on a screen. Yeah? Now, ultimately, we don't want to print on a screen. So if I now go into my table DBP message log and I go through and run it, whoa, because I've selected now, I've selected only my user. See, this is a key word. It's not in single quotes or anything like that. So I'm extracting only my data. Now I want to show you something. I want to ask you a question. This is just a trick. You know when you write your SQL statement and you say where something is something and, or, etc., etc.? And you know when you write SQL code, sometimes you might change something so you comment things out. Note that in my where statement, I have 1 equals 1. What does that mean?
True. Always true.
Sorry?
True.
True. Well, why do I want true?
Because you're not intending to do it.
Yeah, because it's always going to be true. But what I've done is I've killed the where statement. I haven't killed it, but I don't have to change it. Because if I was to change my SQL query, I wanted to comment this out, but if I had where student ID is equal to user, then I would have to comment here, and then I would have to open it and close it. Because I've killed the where, I can now write as many ands and ors as I like and just comment out what I want. It's just easier for me to manage my SQL. So I've just got this where 1 is equal to 1, which just kills, I don't have anything, so I never have to comment this out. Yeah? That's just a little trick. Okay, what I want to show you is this. Because DBP message log is now going through, whoa, somebody's having fun. Ho, ho, ho. DBP message log. What's happening is I think students have been writing into it and I think they've filled it up. Data? Oh no. Count rows? 28. Oh, I wonder why it doesn't work for me. See, this is what happens when you have a live database. 1 is 1. Where 1 is equal to 1, ordered by 1. That should be all right. So why doesn't it work? Here we go. Now, obviously, you guys will recognise your student numbers here, and you see 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 3, 4, 6. Who's that? No? So people have you've been writing into the common.log table, they've been experimenting and whatnot. But what happens is that this is where you log into the table. Now, of course, when you print to the screen, and you wipe the screen out, well, where's your record? You write to the table, in the database environment, you have it for you. Now again, I'm simplifying, I'm showing you how I just limit it down to my user ID and I can see what's happening. I don't really have to be affected by other people. Yeah? Because other users are going to be writing in the other applications, other programs are going to be writing into log tables. And then you might have a query that goes through and extracts this data, look for keywords, because the keywords have been arranged with the developers. This is what I want you to put in, etc., etc. So printing, as you're debugging and developing your system is fine, but understand that it's useless in a database environment. When you have a GUI application and a window pops up and you're writing messages to the users, wonderful. Fuzzy, warm feeling. This is a database environment. You are not, while you're developing, you'll be interacting with the machine. When you put it into the test environment, the testers are going to be running your code. They'll do the
something and bang, something will run. It's a thread test situation. The database is going to be running at the back end. Then they'll go into something like a message log table. Okay, I digress. Now here is a problem. Note what I wrote. Note what I wrote. What did I write? More importantly, how many times did I write it? So now, what I want to do, as a developer, now what I want to change this message. This is me at XXXXCCC. Oh shit, hang on, no, then I change it here, but then I got to change it here as well. Oh, XXXCC. Damn, there's a difference there. How many places did I make a change? More than one, yeah? Now, of course, if we have a lot more code there, we might have to change a lot of places. Is this a good programming approach or a poor programming approach? I would think it's poor. You're a developer, cut and paste, who cares? We fix it. Let's go, let's have a look. Look, I've created a variable. vMessage, I just happen to set it at 255. Who the hell cares? Am I going to worry about it? And of course, what I'm going to do is I'll leave this here because I'll talk about this. And look what I do here now. I put v_message. This is me at sysdate. I run this piece of code. You're leaving me.
No,
Control Enter. This is me at 21. This is my second message. So look, this is me. This is my second message. And all that I'm doing is I'm printing vMessage. If I want to change this to XXXX and CC, and of course I now run this code again. Control Enter. This is me at such and such. And of course if I go into my DBP message log table, Control Enter. Oopsie, sorry. This is me, see? Now, the question is, how many places did I have to make a change? One place, correct? Which approach do you think is better? You'd be amazed. I haven't done this in the past classes. You'll be amazed how many times people repeat code in their assignment. This is another one that I'm going to get you guys to download code. I'm setting all these little traps. And look, the half the class is empty. The other guys don't even get the message. And don't you tell them.
I'll fall for that.
You're recording. Maybe they have heard me. Now, you get the message about tight, efficient, concise code. Now again, don't lose sight of I'm showing you how to run your code. I'm showing you how to declare your variables. I'm showing you how to set things up. The other thing that I want to show you, and take also note particularly of question number whatever in the tutorial where we had the date formats. You see I created a variable here called vDateFormat and I set up a format. And you see how I use it here? Now here, I haven't changed it yet because I wanted to show you. But I simply go through and I basically, let me copy this, Control C, so I don't make a mistake. And I just take my hard-coded values, Control V, and I now run my code. Bang. Now if I want to change the format of my date, I simply change it here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to print it as a 2-digit year. Control Enter. Note 19, note. Again, I'll go back into my DBP message log because again it's also printing there. There we are. All the data's there. How many places did I have to change the code? How many places should we aim for? Not that we must, because sometimes it's impossible. What should we aim for? Minimum maintainability, or maximum maintainability, minimum places to change the same thing. Understand? Yeah?
Now, take another look. What have I got? I've got DBMS output and I've got common log. DBMS output, common log. What's another better solution that you would adopt to eliminate a duplicate? What would you do as a fabulous lady developer? Sorry, I hope you don't mind me picking on you. What would you do to solve this supposedly duplication of code? I'll give you a clue. If it was me, I would write a procedure which we don't know how to do yet. Yeah? What do you think I would call my procedure? My log procedure, or my print procedure, and then my output. I give up some meaningful name. And of course, in that procedure, I would simply pass it the message, and maybe with an option S and T, default to a table or default to a screen, so I can then turn the printing to the screen on and off. Or I'm printing, and in that one procedure, I will say DBMS output, common log. And I would call my procedure in a number of places. So, here is an example of a bit of code running that does nothing, but it compiles and runs. So starting point, get this thing going, hunky-dory. Not stored in a database, everything's fine. Then we have a couple of exercises to show you, and here I'm going through, I'm showing you how I'm duplicating code. You guys, believe it or not, don't even realise you're doing this. I hope now you will realise. Because you think, oh, come, press. Yeah, fantastic. Because you're thinking of writing code. Think maintaining code. Because for you, it's crystal clear. This is why when I catch people at the end of the year after the assignment, I call them in and I say, tell me about your program. That's all. Tell me about your program. Because those people who bled, they keep their fingers are bleeding and they haven't got enough sleep day and night, they can tell you every single line of that code and what it does and why. The people who just copy and compile it, they don't even have a freaking clue. I asked the guy last year, you created this table. Why did you put these columns in there? Huh? Would you like me to ask you the question again? Why did you put these columns in there? You designed it. Yeah, gotcha. Blood, sweat and tears. So, here we go. Compiles and runs. Here is some DBMS output print to the screen. You know all this stuff you know. DBP message log to introduce you to it, but already students already are using it by the looks of it. And then declare. Now we're playing with this piece of code to eliminate duplication and so on. Okay, now I want to show you. This is assignment. Hang on, which is the assignment? I think this is the one. Oh no, this is the one from. This is the one for the electricity. This is not the one we're doing. But this is what PLSQL code looks like, and it's the not our assignment, but it's an assignment. Yeah. So as you can see, this user or this person has gone through. Now take particular attention. See, look, he's got a function there. He's got the end of code here. Look how he's put the brackets in here. Look at how he's formatting things. Now, do you like it? Look, it's sort of a bit of a mismatch. Variable naming. How do I know whether this, when I'm reading code down here, how do I know whether it's an attribute in a table, if it's a parameter because it's a procedure, or whether it's a variable or a constant? You see how he's using different names and all this stuff? So look at this single letter variable for I equals 1 to 10. Why the hell would you use I? What's it counting? Yeah, so this is an example of students' work. Yeah. Now, your assignment is, I think this one. FFS settlement. And come on, load. I'll get rid of this. And again, note how I'm going through my code, how I'm using SQL Developer to select some code and look at it. And note, don't just sort of, oh yeah, I see the code. Look what I'm doing. Right? So, here we go. Fantastic. And you see this cross? That means it doesn't compile. Yeah? So when you go through and, well, you're writing anonymous blocks, so there's nothing in the database. But next week when we start procedures name blocks, which is procedures and functions, you'll be seeing all that stuff in a database. But for now, feel free to go into my schema and see what you can see, yeah, which is common.log and so on. So this is your assignment. Now note the comments. Note the sort of commenting. Note your forward declaration, which we'll talk about. Note modules are commented. White space, purpose, author, date. What you guys tend to do is constantly you tend to write what I call breadcrumb comments. Now I'm going to loop. Now I'm going to do a count. Now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to, like you're telling a story. Really bad. Really bad. All you're doing is you're cluttering your code with crap. So each module describes what it's doing. The indenting, the white spacing and so on. The SQL statements that make up and so on. Again, commenting. You comment whatever needs to be done. This is the SQL statement that I showed you in class. Yeah. And we go on. Your cursor. There's the cursor. And the statement could be as large or as simple as you like. Then we go through, create something. Now note this. Note this. Announce me. Now I created a procedure called announce me. Now what the hell is announce me? Let me have a look. Announce me? Oh, look, a forward declaration. So I've declared it inside the block, inside a class. Right? It's private, which we'll talk about. Where is this announce me? Where's the code? Announce me. Module name and destination. Default T. What does that mean? This module prints out the message that I want to print. By default, it will print into the DBP message log table by default. If I don't give a value table, but if I pass the destination parameter as S, then the printout will be on the screen. Make sure you issue set server output on. Good comments, do you think? Does it explain what the module does? Do I need comments along every line or to tell a story as we go? Or do I tell a story at the top to tell the reader what's going on? What to expect and what has to be done? Are you paying attention? Commenting. Meaningful, valuable. Yeah? And then, of course, vMessage in module, P module name. If I see P, what does that tell me? Oh, it's a parameter. Look, there it is. So he's passing that in. And it's a varchar 2. If P destination is equal to T, then common log, which means I'm calling my procedure now common.log. I don't write to the table again. I use what I have. We don't want to repeat code. So I call common.log and pass the vMessage. Else, dbms output, put line vMessage. In my code, somewhere here, I call, it was down here, wasn't it? I call announce me. First thing as I go in, announce me and I pass the message. Maybe I set up a parameter, maybe I set up a bit of text and whatever. So can you see how I'm getting maximum versatility without all that repeated crap that clutters up code? And if I want to go through and do a search, let's go back to the top. I think there's a way to do a search up here, but I think Control F, which is announce me. And now that's enough. And I'll go through, is it N for next? Oh no. Announce, and then I just go up and down. Oh, there's 10 occurrences. So there's 3. You see how I seed my code with my messages, and nowhere in the code do you see DBMS output, print line, whatever. Because as you're developing, you will want to print to the screen. But what you're printing, because you want to print everything. These things don't work. So you want to see what's happening, what's coming out, what's going on. Yeah? And then later on, you don't want to print to the screen, you want to print to the table. So if I call an announcement like S, the message, I declare a variable somewhere, maybe I'll make that a comma. Public, private, throughout the whole class, if you like. And I just update the variable, bang, 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 bang. Get it? That to me is what I call tight, concise programming. Not the rabble that you go through and, you think you write a code because all you're doing is you're cluttering code. Now, there's something else that we have to see. Cameron's now, SBC. I think this is on UTS Online. This is something that I developed when I was at Origin Energy, and it gives you a feel for code. Feel free to criticize, because I for one minute do not want to make you a monkey of me. But I want to highlight to you the things to be aware of. Now you decide, because when this class is finished, and you go somewhere else and you start working, you will develop your own style. But understand that the style has to be tight and concise. I will make some rules in this class, what I want you to do, and when you leave this class, the rules are basically gone. You please yourself. Okay? But I've given you samples of code, and I've given you things. Now, you're obviously not going to understand it, but have a look at the style of the code. See what it does. Now, I've spoken about announcing a procedure which I wrote inside my package. You guys don't know how to write procedures yet. So you can't write procedures to take advantage. But I want you to start thinking about it. I want you to start thinking about repeated code. That bit of code that I'm using, I think it's either on UTS Online or I'll be putting it on there. Have a look at the common sense approach of as a simple thing as logging something onto a table and a screen. Have a practice printing on a screen and so on. Make sense? I have nothing else to talk about. Oh, hang on. What are the slides? Did I finish everything? Let's take a look how I run the program. Type the program into the interface. Demonstration. Take notes. Yada, yada, yada. You now know how to write PLSQL program in the editor. Anonymous blocks. As opposed to named blocks, i.e. procedures functions. Next week I think we do procedures and functions, and really I'll be talking basically about the same thing except how to create procedures and functions, how to pass parameters to it, how to return things, and so on and so on. So, any questions? You don't care? You're too scared? Go.
You said you have variables, a scope of variables. So you have variable in a glue ball and in a block. So if we have a variable with the same name declared in a glue ball and a block, what is that?
No. Variables have the same name? No.
We should.
No, you can't.
They're giving them different.
Different procedures files. Yeah, but not in the box. Because the system looks at the same bit. The compiler will go, the compiler will go through and first of all it does is check. You know what? Programmers. What's I'm showing my ignorance. You know you've got 2 pass compilers and 1 pass compilers?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because I think your 1 pass compiler will just basically go through and check things, and it'll put things in a stack. A 2 pass compiler will go through and build a stack of all the variables and everything, and it'll look and it'll say, oh, okay, I've got this name, and then it'll compile the code. So, yeah, no, names can't be the same. Sorry.
When can we start working on assignment 1, or can we already do that?
You don't know what the assignment 1 is.
Well, yeah, but so when can we start?
I hope to have assignment 1 out for you this week.
Okay.
One of the things that I haven't mentioned during this lecture, but I showed you how to use, in your SQL, I showed you how to use not long variables, word substitute variables. I showed you how to use a variable here and so on. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting you to have a parameter table. So rather than store things in your code, as you're seeing me do it, I will be asking you to put things into a parameter table. The whole idea with parameter tables is what happens is then you write a Java application or some web application and then users change the data, not the program. So it's external and you're then loading that stuff into your program and using all of those things. So your program's will be a little bit abstract. And that's what catch these guys that download stuff because I haven't done this before. And because I haven't done it before, I now have to think the right words and how to put the instructions down so they crucify me.
I know this is a question, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard would you say the first one?
No, don't want to sign.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to sign.
And if it goes through
On a scale of 1 to 10,
yeah.
I think the assignment hardness, right? Hardness is 10.
Right, okay.
But I hope, and I said this to you last week, my dearest wish to you is that when you get the assignment, which is about 10 or 15 pages of specifications and a story, you go, what the hell? You won't have a clue. You lose sleep, you won't be able to do it. And of course, you leave it because you have other assignments to do. And 3 or 4 weeks before the due date, it's a shit, better start doing it. And then you make a mess out of it. Some of the chickens in here will download and just basically copy it, but you'll make a mess of it. And my dearest wish to you is that I hope you get to the end and you say to yourself, God, this is a piece of crap, but I wish I could do it again. And that is what I want from you.
I was waiting for it to get better.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, because how the hell are you going to produce a work of art the first time around?
Well, it just depends, like, how high you sort of, how high you're expecting, how much you're expecting.
No, you'll produce a file, you'll produce a report, you'll send an email, which is, I'm deliberately repeating the assignment from last year because I'm punching against last year. I'm really upset about what happened last year. And it's come to my attention that the download options, what's that site, what's the site you mentioned on? GitHub. You can go and read the assignment on GitHub. These idiots, they have no pride in their work. They upload it so everybody else can download. So these cheats, that's all I can do, I call them cheats, is they download the stuff, and I think half of it is my fault because we tend to regurgitate these things. This year I'm touching it. But I don't want you downloading things off the net. I don't care. But I've got the whole assignment and not without you acknowledging it.
You can't really acknowledge somebody's work on your own.
Well, exactly. That's it. But when you are going through and producing some sort of, when you start, you won't have a clue where to start. File specifications are really confusing. But when you get to the end, look, today's tutorial, for those of you who did a tutorial degree, you probably picked a question up and said, oh, what the hell is this? I have no idea how to do that. I hope you did. Some of you may have been able to work it out. Most of you probably put it away and said, oh, wait till I get the answer. Now, unless you have a go, how the hell will you know what you don't know? And then when you read the answer is so simple, you say, well, that's people that have a go. At least they'll be able to look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's what it feels right. And that's my wish for your assignment. So, my point is, for those of you who don't quite understand the stuff that I'm talking about, my point is, have a bloody go.
So do you just
No. Well, I'll give you an option. The email is a little bit complicated because it's one of those things you don't see what's happening. So you can send an email from the data, send a file and attachment. Then only for people who want to do one signature. Otherwise, you'll produce a file, you'll produce a report. and it'll be to the operating system and all that stuff. You'll have to use a run table to control your program. I'll be looking at the logging. I'm not going to be looking at how elevated your code is because everything is just really code.
But I mean, it's not really possible that, implement it and make it.
Exactly. Well, that's actually manageable. And supportable. Yes. It's work in progress.
So I think that really is a lot of it. But nothing's coming up with whenever right, we can't access any of
soon you'll be writing code, and then you'll start seeing the code, you can create tables and stuff. But your schema is going to the tables and stuff, because you don't
Yeah, well, of course, because you just have to practice and you have to make sure you don't make mistakes and so on. Yeah, that's. I don't believe you. When did you? When?
The list was from no reply. So what we do is this: it has a search for a keyword in the email, like Oracle. Yeah, so the email, the schema, and the password is from no reply account. So it won't be in that master box.
Oh, so where do you have to search?
You have to just go and search in Microsoft Office and you have to search.
Oh, so you have to look through your email. But when did you enroll?
Next week.
No, when did you enroll in the subject? Oh, because they have a process where it automatically picks up any new enrollees. You've got the email, just search for your email.
Okay.
Yeah. But your user ID is you with your student number, and your password is the same as all the other passwords.
The email password. It's not you. It's not you.
Oh, so it's just a number.
Yeah, you've been misleading.
Oh, there, I'm giving you a bump steer.
Also you put the 5554.
Oh, yeah, but 5554 is, it might not work, but you're setting that port on your PC to listen on. So it's got to work because you're setting that port. It could be that.
We expect up to 1522.
No.
It depends on your laptop.
Yeah,
You're on public or private network?
Well, pick another port. Pick a port that you don't use.
Otherwise, because you've got, I've been institutions like
Oh yeah, but a lot of people can't connect because of other reasons. It's not the port. Because I picked 5554 because it's unlikely any application will be using it. But maybe something is, or I think there's well, that'll be on your laptop. There'll be some software that you've got installed. It's certainly nothing to do with the setup. Oh, I don't believe that they do. Yeah, I think there's some other issue. And try 3333. But the main thing is 1552 is the Oracle port on Oralab machine, and 15 is it 1522? No, but it's not that what you use. It has to be whatever they've got to set up as, because Oralab is listening on a particular port. What? Are they? Mate, I'm going to my tutorial now. Oh, well, Fahima is going to hers, and no, there's only 3 of us.
Yeah, so the third one is usually.
No, he was up there. He was this morning.
Yeah, he was there. He's on strike.
Oh no!
Yeah, and even Climate Days, she only got through half a question too.
That's possibly because I don't expect her to. I expect her to maybe go through 1 question. Well, I put that all online. You know, you might go through 1, maybe 2 questions if you're lucky.
You can start with one, you can start with get through as much as you can, and that's 60 minutes.
Well, it's their tutorial, so they run it as they see fit. Oh well, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that Al didn't do anything. I would have. Well, the first tutorial is really not. I mean, when I say it's not important, I mean it is. Everything's important because it gives you that feel of how I want you to start thinking. You know. And, yeah, it's just how to. But the trick, the problems with clever solutions that you might say to yourself, oh goodness me, I never thought of that, or isn't that clever? But in the end, it's very simple solutions to what seems complex problems. You know, and it's really the whole concept that I have is that if you were to give a programmer that sort of a question, what sort of code would he write to answer it, whereas SQL does it for you? So that's the whole idea of that first tutorial. Well, you can, but ultimately, if the tutorial room is full, and then the people who are enrolled in it will have to take precedence. What are you doing? I think I'm in 103. V1 103. I think so. Yeah. Oh, but it knows how to end because each line it's got its start and end. You know, because you should go from the first, so you split it up, then you split up the split up, then you split up the split, but you should split up just a single word. And then go from 1 to 3, then from 4 to 7, then from 8 to 15, something like. Try doing that. And the exercise is really for the substring function, which you use it. So that's fine. Yes, well, you don't have to know. But I used to have an assignment where they were given an address and they had to split the address up. And sometimes, was there 1 number or 2 numbers? Was it a slash? Was it a false thing? And that was their exercise that they had to do. But you won't have to do any of this stuff. So really, this is an exercise in the substring function, and it just shows you the starting point and the number of characters. Because in some languages you have the starting point, ending point. There's different languages approach this thing a different way. But that's a trivial exercise that I wouldn't concern yourself with the dates. That's the thing that you concern yourself with, because that's much more important. Yeah, he's very clever. Yeah, and I love, this is the sort of stuff that I love.
I was like 2 hours.
Good. But I bet that if I gave you a similar question again, it would only take you an hour. And then a third time it might take you 15 minutes. And then after that you'll be teaching others.
I actually want that. I want it.
Yeah, give it to him. Give it to Fahima.
Yeah, just about the lectures, you can see you recording them. Are they being uploaded to you?
Well, it depends on how they come out.
Okay, alright. Just checking, because I missed the first one because of sickness.
Yeah. Well, Fahima's got the software, and a little bit of luck, it'll all work.
Yeah.
And then by all means, I'll put it up on UTS Online.
Okay.
As long as you don't hold me to anything that I say.
Of course, that's right.
Yeah? Because the solicitors, I don't want to deal with solicitors and lawyers.
Yeah, alright. Thank you.
But if it works, we'll certainly put it up on UTS Online. And because I don't know how it's going to come out, because as you see, I walk away from the lecture, and I think everything's being recorded through the laptop microphone. So, but that's why I'm wearing this thing. So maybe it's picking things up, or it might echo. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Good on you.
Thank you. I just enrolled yesterday. And
Correct. Well, I don't really want you to wait too long.
No, it's not a request. It's like for another student, they come up with so send an email to me.
Yeah, but even they have a system which automatically checks every couple of days, and it automatically creates them. You know, so but yes. So it may be that you may get it, but don't wait too long. Because no. In that case, maybe send Fahime or myself an email, and then what we'll do is we'll put a request in there, and he will probably reply and say, "Oh, look, it'll be done tonight automatically." Yeah. So maybe even wait till Monday and then send an email, because by then you may get an email with your account. But really, you have the instructions. Your user ID is your student number, and your password is whatever your standard password is. So you don't really need an email. Yeah? So, all your instructions on how to connect to the databases on UTS Online, they're fairly straightforward. Some people have trouble, but it is fairly straightforward.
I can send you an email.
Oh, okay.
So,
Have you received my email?
I think it's in the UTS class.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll give you
Yeah, is it
So what can I do?
Perfect.
Yeah,
Your name. Here, what's your name?
Owen.
But because you won't be able to attend classes.
Because this time is conflict with my other subject.
Well, why can't you miss the other subject?
They have new fixes.
I think this has got some new. Anyway, look, we're recording the lectures, and with a little bit of luck, it will work. So, because the problem is that I don't always follow the slides. I talk, and then all the stuff that I talk through the database, that should all be captured here. So you have the recording, you have UTS Online. Please don't send me emails, because if you have a question, then maybe 10 other people have a question. Put it on UTS Online. I will answer you. If the answer is not satisfactory, put something back on. What do you mean by this? I will answer you again until you get it. But the onus is on you to do the work. I can't open your head up and then pour the knowledge in there. You've got to do the work. And this is, if you're not comfortable with programming and developing corporate systems, this may be a little bit difficult. Especially if you're not going to attend classes. Yeah? Okay. Now. Oh, you don't want me?
Yeah, I just want for you to.
Oh, okay. Let me just shut this down.